All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be detectives. We're opening up a cold case file that's been sitting on the shelf for, about 12,000 years. And at the heart of this investigation, a global catastrophe that might just change everything you think you know about human history. I mean, really think about that for a second. We're all taught this nice, neat story in school, right? Humanity slowly marches forward, step by step. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if something forced our ancestors into a massive reset, a great forgetting? What if our civilization isn't the first one, but just the first one we remember, the first to crawl out of the rubble? All right, so let's get into it. The first clue in our investigation, well, it's not a smoking gun or an eyewitness, it's the Earth itself. The evidence is literally frozen in time, buried deep in rock and ice, and it tells a pretty shocking story about how our entire world changed, basically overnight. So, to really get this, you have to picture the scene. The world is coming out of a long, long ice age. These massive glaciers that covered huge chunks of the planet, they're finally melting back. The world's getting warmer, forests are growing back, and humans, well, they're thriving. It really seemed like things were looking up. Yeah, but that didn't last. Out of nowhere, and I mean catastrophically, something slammed the brakes on the whole warming trend. It's like the planet's thermostat was just cranked all the way back down to freezing. This sent the world spiraling back into a deep freeze for more than 1,000 years. And this is the core of our mystery.
And this is what's so wild. Look at this timeline. We're not talking about a slow, gradual cooling. It's a cliff, a straight-up plunge. I mean, think about it. Average temperatures in some places dropped by up to 15 degrees Celsius in maybe a decade or less. That's not a climate shift, people. That is a climate shock.
So this event actually has a name. It's called the Younger Dryas. And it's kind of a weird name, right? It's named after this little Arctic flower, the Dryas octopetala. Why? Because scientists started finding its pollen way, way south of where it should have been. It was the first big clue that the cold had come roaring back. So yeah, that's the official name on our 12,000-year-old cold case file.
Okay, so now let's look at another piece of the puzzle, because this climate disaster connects to something else, a truly bizarre mystery, an ancient structure that, according to our history books, simply should not exist. And this, my friends, is where the case gets really interesting.
Okay, 6,000 years. We've all heard that number, right? That's when civilization supposedly kicked off. You know, the first cities, the pyramids in Egypt, Stonehenge, that whole deal. And we're told that before that, it was just small tribes of hunter-gatherers wandering around. The end. But then, there's this number, 11,600 years. This is the age of a place called Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. We're talking about this huge temple complex made of giant carved stone pillars. It's not just a little older than Stonehenge, it's more than twice as old as the Great Pyramids. And guess what? Its age lines up almost perfectly with the end of that deep freeze. And this is the part that just breaks the brains of archaeologists. How? How did they do this? The people who built it were supposed to be hunter-gatherers. They didn't have farming yet, no pottery, no metal tools. But somehow, they were quarrying, moving, and carving these massive pillars, some weighing over 10 tons, with these incredibly detailed animal carvings. It doesn't fit the story we've been told, at all. So let's recap. We've got this impossible building and a sudden devastating climate catastrophe happening around the same time. If the usual explanations aren't working, where do we look for answers? Well, for this one, our investigation has to turn its eyes to the sky.
And that brings us to our prime suspect. Now, I gotta be clear, this is a pretty controversial idea. Scientists are still arguing about it. But the theory is called the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. And what it suggests is that our planet ran into the debris from a huge, breaking-apart comet. So not just one big rock hitting us, but more like a shotgun blast from space, with pieces exploding in the air and slamming into that giant ice sheet over North America.
And just like in any good detective story, there's forensic evidence. All over the world, geologists have found this weird, thin, black layer in the soil, and it dates to exactly 12,800 years ago. And when they look inside it, they find the fingerprints of a cosmic impact. We're talking tiny nanodiamonds created by intense pressure, a layer of platinum dust that's super rare on Earth but common in comets, and these little molten rock droplets. This is about as close to a smoking gun as you can get, literally baked into the planet's crust.
Okay, the evidence is pretty compelling, right? The motive?
Well, that's just cosmic chance. But what would it have actually been like to be there? Let's step away from the science for a minute and just try to imagine what our ancestors saw.
So just imagine, you're living 12,800 years ago. The world is finally getting warmer. Life is probably pretty good. You look up at the night sky, at the same stars we see.
But tonight, something's wrong. A new star shows up, and then another. And then suddenly the whole sky just seems to ignite, like it's being ripped apart. The familiar, comforting night is gone, replaced by absolute terror.
You realize it's not a star, it's a comet, and it's breaking into pieces right above you. This isn't just a shooting star, it's a storm of them, a celestial downpour. It must have looked like the sky itself was falling.
You'd see pieces exploding in the air with more power than any bomb we could imagine. Others would slam into the giant ice sheets, instantly turning billions of tons of ice into steam. The whole world would be shaking, the sound would be deafening. A rain of fire and ice.
And then, after all that fire, comes the cold and the dark. The sun vanishes behind a thick cloud of dust and smoke. The temperatures just plummet. And for anyone who survived that day, the world they once knew was just gone. Forever.
So where does that leave us? What does it all mean? You've got this cosmic impact, this global winter, and this impossible stone temple that shows up right after. When you start putting all those pieces together, the picture that starts to form could change everything we think we know about our own story.
And this is the really mind-bending idea. What if Göbekli Tepe wasn't the start of something new? What if it was a desperate attempt to hold on to something old? A memory, an echo from a world that existed before the disaster? What if the people who built it weren't primitive at all, but were actually the survivors of a much more advanced civilization that was almost completely wiped out?
So here you have it, the two stories, side by side. On the one hand, you've got this simple, straight line of progress we all learned in school. But on the other, you have this much wilder possibility. A story of cycles, of great civilizations that rise and then get knocked back to square one by cosmic events. A story that suggests, maybe, we aren't the first ones to get this far.
And that's where we have to leave this case, for now. It's definitely not closed. If anything, it's more wide open than ever. The Younger Dryas is this incredible reminder that our planet isn't always a calm, safe place. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? It suggests that there could be entire chapters of human history that are just lost, waiting to be found. The investigation continues.